I hope you're enjoying this series about always Easter at the Advent, this idea that the resurrected Christ is present with us. And that is true always, but in a unique sense, in a contextual way, whenever we're present here at the church. And thankfully, we are able to do that more and more these days. One of the things that we're going to be doing more is gathering in person for classes and book studies. And you may be familiar with the book class that I've been teaching now almost 10 years called Book and Brown Bag. And it takes place on Tuesdays at 12:15. And beginning in May, the first Tuesday in May, May 4th, we're going to begin meeting in the Parish and Community Life Center. And the book that we're going to be beginning on May the 4th is C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. Now, if you were with us from the very beginning or back when I first started this class in 2011, you might recall that the very first book we discussed was Mere Christianity. And it's one of those books that I believe people should read about once a decade. It's that important and that valuable, and it's a timeless work. The wording's a little dated, certainly kind of the overuse of the masculine, in my opinion, is a little dated, but C.S. Lewis's words are just like no other writer of the 20th century. His own unique voice comes through, and that's why he's regarded really as one of the most highly effective and best apologists for Christianity. So I'm going to use an excerpt from Mere Christianity, and this comes from the chapter called Charity. It's chapter 9, and charity, of course, in this term means love. Charity means love in the Christian sense. But love in the Christian sense does not mean an emotion. It is a state not of the feelings, but of the will. That state of the will which we have naturally about ourselves and must learn to have about other people. Christian love or charity for our neighbors is quite a different thing from liking or affection. We like or are fond of some people and not others. It is important to understand that this natural liking is neither a sin nor a virtue any more than your likes and dislikes in food are a sin or a virtue. It is just a fact. But of course, what we do about it is either sinful or virtuous. The rule for all of us is perfectly simple. Do not waste time bothering whether you love your neighbor. Act as if you did. As soon as we do this, we find one of the great secrets. When you are behaving as if you love someone, you will presently come to love them. If you injure someone you dislike, you will find yourself disliking him more. If you do him a good turn, you will find yourself disliking him less. But whenever we do good to another self, just because it is a self made like us by God and desiring its own happiness as we desire ours, we shall have learned to love a little more, or at least to dislike a little less. The Christian trying to treat everyone kindly finds himself liking more and more people as he goes on, including people he could not even have imagined himself liking at the beginning. Good and evil both increase at compound interest. That is why the little decisions you and I make every day are of such infinite importance. The smallest good act today is the capture of a strategic point from which, a few months later, you may be able to go on to victories you never dreamed of. An apparently trivial indulgence in lust or anger today is the loss of a ridge or railway line or bridgehead from which the enemy may launch an attack otherwise impossible. On the whole, God's love for us is a much safer subject to think about than our love for Him. Nobody can always have devout feelings. And even if we could, feelings are not what God principally cares about. Christian love, either towards God or towards man, is an affair of the will. An affair of the will. I love that portion from C.S. Lewis. It reminds me that, some pretending is perfectly acceptable and actually quite virtuous. If we have someone who is just not to our liking, perhaps, try pretending to like them. Try to pretend that you love them. And like C.S. Lewis says, I believe that you will come to love that person in ways you never had asked for. Likewise, praying for each other. And that's why I think Jesus is adamant about praying for our enemies. It's not so that we will like all of our enemies, but maybe that we will dislike them a little less. I hope that as we continue to make our way through these 50 days of Easter, this great feast, this celebration of 50 days, that you will find yourself more and more experiencing the love of Christ as you continue to love others. Thank you, and God bless you. Happy Easter, and remember that you are loved, and remember to love, even if you have to pretend.